Step away from the vehicle now. The words cut through the Saturday afternoon air like a blade. Officer Derek Mitchell's hand rested on his holster as he stared at the woman standing beside the pristine 1967 Mustang. Kesha Washington, dressed in jeans and a simple blazer, slowly raised her hands. Around them, shoppers stopped. Phones emerged. A circle began to form. "Place your hands on the hood," Mitchell barked, his voice carrying across the upscale shopping district parking lot. "This vehicle matches a stolen car report." Kesha's designer handbag slid from her shoulder as she complied. Through the car window, a leather portfolio lay on the passenger seat, its official seal barely visible beneath scattered papers. The crowd grew larger, cameras rolled. Have you ever been judged by the color of your skin rather than the content of your character, even when you held more power than the person judging you? 10 minutes remained until courthouse security would realize Judge Washington was missing from the emergency judicial conference. Officer Mitchell circled the Mustang like a predator studying prey. His 12 years on the force had taught him to spot inconsistencies. A black woman in casual clothes, driving a car worth more than most people's annual salary. In his mind, the math didn't add up. "This vehicle is worth more than you make in 5 years," he said, loud enough for the growing crowd to hear. "So let's start with the truth." 20 feet away, college student Amara Johnson held her phone steady, live streaming to her TikTok followers. The viewer count climbed rapidly. Comments flooded the screen faster than she could read them. "Officer, I can explain," Kesha began, her voice calm despite the humiliation burning in her chest. "No, ma'am," Mitchell interrupted, his hand moving to his radio. "You'll explain to detectives. Right now, I need registration, insurance, and proof of purchase." The crowd pressed closer. Some filmed openly. Others pretended to shop, their eyes locked on the unfolding scene. Keisha noticed an elderly black woman pushing through the gathering, recognition flickering across her weathered face. "That's not," the woman started. "Step back, ma'am," Mitchell warned without looking away from Keisha. "This is police business." Kesha's phone buzzed against her hip. Chief Justice calling. She couldn't answer, not with her hands still pressed against the warm metal of her father's restored car. The same car she'd driven to countless family barbecues. The same car that carried his memory in every pristine detail. "I'm going to need you to empty your pockets," Mitchell continued. "My backup should arrive soon." Saturday afternoons in this district usually meant simple shoplifting calls, but this felt different. This felt like the kind of arrest that made careers. "Officer Mitchell," Kesha said calmly, reading his name tag with deliberate precision. "Badge number 4847. I need you to understand—" "What I understand," he interrupted, "is that you're stalling. People who belong with cars like this don't act nervous around police." The livestream viewer count surged. Amara's phone battery dropped, but she couldn't stop recording. This was the kind of moment that exposed the truth about racial profiling in America. Through the Mustang's window, Kesha's leather portfolio caught the afternoon sunlight. A first-class boarding pass from her recent conference in Washington, D.C. protruded from the side pocket. Beside it lay an expired VIP courthouse parking permit from her previous vehicle. Her phone buzzed again. Emergency conference. Landmark civil rights case. Her vote was needed. "Ma'am," Mitchell said, his patience now performative for the cameras, "I'm going to ask you one more time. How did you come to possess this vehicle?" "It belonged to my father," Kesha replied. "Judge Robert Washington." Mitchell's expression didn't change. "Names mean nothing without proof," he said coldly. "And proof is exactly what I'm demanding." The crowd murmured. Someone whispered, "Judge Washington." The elderly woman tried again to step forward, but other bystanders held her back, unwilling to escalate the situation. "Officer," a mall security guard approached cautiously, his radio crackling. "Is everything under control?" "Just processing a potential vehicle theft," Mitchell replied, calling for backup to assist with a search. The word rippled through the crowd like electricity. Phones emerged from purses and pockets. The circle widened and tightened at the same time, as if everyone understood they were witnessing something significant. Kesha's briefcase sat in the back seat, its state Supreme Court seal facing away from the windows. Inside lay documents that could end this humiliation instantly, but reaching for them now would only escalate Mitchell's suspicions. So she waited, hands on the hood, cameras rolling, power hidden in plain sight. Minutes remained before courthouse security realized Judge Washington was missing. Sirens cut through the Saturday shopping buzz. Two patrol cars rounded the corner, blue lights washing over the crowd in strobing flashes. Sergeant Reynolds stepped out of the first vehicle, his 23 years of experience evident in his measured approach. "What do we have here?" Reynolds asked, surveying the scene. The pristine Mustang, the well-dressed woman with her hands on the hood, and the growing crowd of phone-wielding witnesses. "Possible vehicle theft," Mitchell replied confidently. "The subject claims the car belonged to her father, but can't provide adequate documentation." Reynolds studied Kesha more carefully. Something about Mitchell's assessment felt incomplete, but protocol demanded support for an officer in the field. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to step away from the vehicle while we conduct our investigation." Across the internet, Amara's live stream exploded. Tens of thousands were now watching. The comment section moved too fast to read. "Wait, Judge Washington?" Officer Janet Torres emerged from the second patrol car. With 5 years on the force, she immediately recognized the volatility of the situation. She began crowd control, establishing a perimeter while documenting the scene with her body camera. "Sir, we need to maintain order here," Torres told Reynolds. "This crowd is getting agitated, and the media is arriving." A local news van pulled into the parking lot, its satellite dish rising. Reporter Jennifer Martinez stepped out, drawn by the social media storm already trending across multiple platforms. In the crowd, the elderly woman, Mrs. Dorothy Hayes, pulled out her phone. Her arthritic fingers moved slowly as she searched the courthouse directory. She knew that face. 40 years in the legal system had taught her how to recognize authority, even when it wore casual clothes. "Officers," Kesha said calmly, her voice carrying courtroom-level control. "I understand your concerns, but I need to make a phone call. This situation is based on a misunderstanding." "No phone calls until we complete our investigation," Mitchell snapped. "Turn around and place your hands behind your back." The crowd stirred. "She's not resisting," someone shouted. "This is harassment," another voice called out. A teenager with purple hair live-streamed from another angle, capturing everything. Reynolds raised his hand for quiet as his radio crackled with dispatch updates. Saturday afternoons were busy, and this situation was already consuming too many resources. "Look," Reynolds said, his tone calmer than Mitchell's, "if you can provide registration and insurance, we can clear this up quickly." Kesha's phone buzzed again. Chief Justice calling, for the fourth time. 5 minutes remained. "The documents are in my briefcase," Kesha said carefully. "In the back seat." Mitchell immediately moved toward the car. "I'll retrieve them for evidence." "That briefcase contains confidential legal documents," Kesha said sharply. "You cannot search it." "If you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't object to a search," Mitchell replied coldly. The legal implications hit her instantly. Attorney-client privilege, sealed files, judicial confidentiality. "Officer, I'm invoking my Fourth Amendment rights," Kesha said firmly. "You cannot search my vehicle or personal effects without a warrant or probable cause." Mitchell's smile hardened. "Probable cause?" he said. "How about suspected vehicle theft?" Mall security supervisor Carlos Rodriguez approached, unease written across his face. "Officers, mall management is concerned about the disruption. How long will this take?" "As long as necessary," Mitchell replied. "This is a criminal investigation." Torres leaned in toward Reynolds, whispering urgently, "Sarge, the live streams are going viral. Over 40,000 people are watching this right now." Reynolds felt the weight of modern policing settle in. One wrong move could end careers, trigger protests, or invite federal scrutiny. In the crowd, Mrs. Hayes finally found what she was searching for. The courthouse website displayed the photo clearly. The Honorable Judge Kesha Washington. Her heart sank, and then hardened with resolve. She pushed forward again, but the crowd had swelled past 200 people. "Officer," she called out with authority, "that woman is Judge Kesha Washington of the Superior Court." Mitchell paused, his handcuffs frozen halfway to Kesha's wrists. "Ma'am, step back." "I worked in that courthouse for 40 years, Mrs. Hayes continued. "I know Judge Washington. Her father was Judge Robert Washington. He drove this exact car." Reynolds looked from Mrs. Hayes to Kesha. Doubt crept into his expression. Torres activated her radio, requesting additional supervision and crowd control. Across the country, the live stream numbers surged again. Hashtags began trending. Local news stations picked up the feed, amplifying the moment in real time. "This is Jennifer Martinez with Channel 7 News," the reporter announced on camera. "We're live at Northbrook Shopping Center, where a traffic stop has raised serious questions about racial profiling." The situation was spiraling beyond Mitchell's control, but pride kept him standing firm. 3 years from retirement, 18 excessive force complaints, 2 federal lawsuits settled quietly by the city. This arrest could either redeem him or destroy him. "Ma'am," Mitchell announced, pulling out his handcuffs, "you're under arrest for failure to provide proper vehicle identification and obstruction of justice." "Obstruction?" Reynolds questioned. "She's been evasive from the beginning," Mitchell snapped. "Turn around." The crowd erupted. Phones captured every angle as Kesha slowly turned, her dignity unbroken. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "Sometimes the law fails us, baby girl, but we never fail the law." And then everything changed. Before the cuffs could close around her wrists, a sharp voice cut through the chaos. "Stand down, now." Every officer froze. A black SUV had pulled up behind the patrol cars. The driver's door opened, and Chief of Police Marcus Hill stepped out, his expression tight with urgency. His phone was still in his hand. "Mitchell," Hill said firmly, his voice carrying authority that silenced the crowd. "Remove your hands from the judge." "Judge?" The word rippled through the parking lot. Mitchell turned slowly, confusion flashing across his face. "Chief, this woman is obstructing—" "That woman," Hill interrupted, "is Judge Kesha Washington of the Superior Court, and you are seconds away from making the biggest mistake of your career." The live streams exploded. Comments flooded in faster than servers could refresh. They tried to arrest a judge. "This is unreal. Racial profiling in real time." Reynolds stepped back, his face pale. Officer Torres lowered her camera slightly, though it continued recording every second. Mitchell's hand trembled as he unlocked the cuffs. I wasn't informed," he stammered. "She didn't identify herself." Hill's eyes burned. "She attempted to," he said coldly. "You didn't listen." Kesha turned slowly to face Mitchell, rubbing her wrists where the cold metal had almost closed. "For the record," she said evenly, "I am not required to disclose my profession to avoid unlawful detention." The crowd erupted in applause. Mrs. Hayes wiped tears from her eyes. "That's my judge," she whispered. Hill turned to the assembled officers. "Clear the scene," he ordered, "immediately." Reynolds signaled his team, backing officers away as murmurs of disbelief spread through the crowd. Jennifer Martinez spoke into her microphone, her voice steady despite the historic moment unfolding. "We can now confirm the woman detained here is Judge Kesha Washington. Sources indicate she was on her way to an emergency judicial conference when the stop occurred." Kesha finally reached for her briefcase, opening it with calm precision. Inside lay official documents, judicial credentials, and the unmistakable seal of the Superior Court. Mitchell avoided eye contact. "Judge Washington," Hill said quietly, his tone shifting, "I offer my sincerest apology on behalf of the department." She nodded once. "Your apology is noted," she replied, "but accountability is required." The crowd cheered again. Across social media, clips of the confrontation spread like wildfire. Civil rights attorneys, activists, and legal scholars weighed in within minutes. The incident was no longer local, it was national. Torres received a message through her earpiece. "Internal Affairs has been notified." Mitchell stiffened. Hill turned back toward him. "Officer Mitchell," he said, loud enough for cameras to capture every word, "you are relieved of duty pending investigation. Turn in your badge and service weapon." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mitchell's shoulders sagged as he complied. Years of authority collapsed into silence. As he handed over his badge, the engraved number caught the sunlight. The same number Kesha had read aloud earlier, when no one believed her. Reynolds exhaled slowly, the weight of command heavy on his face. "This never should have happened," he said quietly. "No," Kesha replied, "it shouldn't have." Hill escorted Kesha toward her car as officers dispersed the crowd. Protest chants began forming even as the scene dissolved. Justice for Kesha. End racial profiling. Listen before you judge. Before getting into the Mustang, Kesha turned back toward the cameras one last time. This wasn't about a car, she said clearly. It was about assumption. Her words cut through the noise. If this can happen to a judge, she continued, imagine what happens to people without a title, without a platform, without a voice. Silence followed, then applause, louder than before. Kesha sat behind the wheel, hands steady now. The engine purred to life, just as it had decades earlier when her father first restored it. As she pulled away, the news banners changed. Judge detained in possible case of racial profiling. But for Kesha Washington, the story was far from over. Because power doesn't just reveal injustice, it demands correction. By Monday morning, the country was still talking. Every major news outlet replayed the footage. Panel discussions filled the airwaves. Legal analysts dissected every second of the encounter, while civil rights groups demanded immediate reform. Judge Kesha Washington arrived at the courthouse early, her posture calm, her expression resolute. The same halls that had once felt routine now carried a heavier weight. Inside the Chief Justice's office, silence hung thick. We've reviewed the footage, the Chief Justice said carefully. This incident raises serious constitutional concerns. Kesha placed her briefcase on the table. It raises human concerns, she replied. The Constitution already speaks clearly. Outside, protesters gathered on the courthouse steps, signs raised high. Accountability now, end racial profiling. Justice without exceptions. By noon, the mayor held a press conference. The city announced an independent investigation, mandatory bias training, and a temporary suspension of Officer Mitchell pending further review. But Kesha knew policy changes alone weren't enough. That afternoon, she took the bench. The courtroom was packed. Reporters filled the back rows, notebooks open, cameras rolling. When she entered, everyone stood. She paused, letting the silence speak. This court will come to order, she said. The first case was routine, but the moment was not. As proceedings unfolded, Kesha's voice carried a new gravity. Each ruling, each word carried the reminder that justice was not an abstract idea. It was lived, experienced, sometimes violated. During a recess, Mrs. Hayes waited in the hallway. I never thought I'd see that day, the elderly woman said softly. Kesha smiled gently. You helped prevent it from ending much worse. Mrs. Hayes squeezed her hand. You made us proud, she whispered. By evening, official statements were released. Internal Affairs confirmed a full investigation. Previous complaints against Mitchell resurfaced, now examined under national scrutiny. Weeks later, the findings were made public. Officer Derek Mitchell was terminated from the department. The city reached a settlement, not with Judge Washington, but with multiple individuals whose cases had been mishandled under similar circumstances. New oversight measures were introduced, body camera policies strengthened, community review boards empowered, training programs rewritten. But the most powerful moment came quietly. Late one evening, Kesha stood alone in her garage, running her hand along the polished surface of the Mustang. Her father's voice echoed softly in memory. The law's only as strong as the people willing to defend it. She closed her eyes. This time she had. The next morning, Kesha authored a judicial opinion that would be cited for years to come, one that reinforced Fourth Amendment protections and clarified the limits of discretionary policing. Legal journals called it landmark. Law students studied it. Communities felt it. And somewhere in parking lots and traffic stops across the country, people stood a little taller, knowing someone had spoken, not just for herself, but for everyone. Because justice doesn't arrive by chance. It arrives when someone refuses to stay silent.